I miss you guys.
Hi.
I miss you
It's
folks.
the Hoop
Oh.
Talk.
Whoop, whoop.
Season 3.
Three.
That means we've been on for a long time.
For most of this
For 3 seasons.
administration.
You're right. Yeah, you're
Oh,
right.
man.
We had a long ass vacation. I mean, I think it was the longest we've been not covering. I know we went like during the finals and all that good stuff, or all these things happening, but we all needed a break.
Oh yeah,
We all needed a break.
For sure.
everybody needs
For
it.
sure. I mean,
Not like we weren't tweeting and posting and.
Yeah, I mean, I went off the grid for maybe a day, so there's that. Yeah, I can't help myself.
How was your outdoor tub?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
So I was in Joshua Tree, and we were there for a week and a half, so give or take, and it was wonderful. We just were in the stars and in the sun, and
But booty naked.
For the most part, we tried at least when we were undercover. You don't want to get sunburned. There's bits and pieces that haven't seen the sun in a real long time.
Yeah, we're too city for that. Doesn't matter where our roots come from.
Get some bug bites in the weird spot.
Exactly. Too many neighbors too close to do too much of that. But in the desert, we just want to hang out all the way out, but in the shade. So
nice.
we were grilling. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. It was a good break. I only did really one thing, which we're going to talk about. I talked to Antonio Williams, who was on our show last season. I'll talk about that later. But other than that, we are in October, Rocktober, ready to vote. I'm a vote.
Red October.
Rock the vote-tober.
Today is exactly 1 month to voting. So when we're recording today on Saturdays, we're 1 month from voting. And if you've been following any of the news, you might see why and how it is so important to vote, register, get out there, wear a mask, social distance, don't go to a large event. I mean, just a lot of things.
There's a lot.
And we might get into it with our guest who's coming on today, because she's also been working on voting initiatives in her state, in her home state, and we're going to have her on for today's episode. Before we do that, Karen, how are you holding it up in San Francisco? How's the smoke? How's the weather?
We had a nice break from smoke, and then it came back. Sucks.
Well, you got that new shady fire or whatever in Napa. Hope that's not doing anything.
Glass? Shade?
It's shady.
Another fire.
Yeah, I just look at air quality and go, what fire's here?
Sure.
What's next? Next?
Sure.
But, I think I have to address the elephant in the room, because I did get a notification right before the show on Twitter. And, for all our millions of fans who see our interactions, Liz wanted to remind me that she did not unsee my Miami Heat in 5 prediction. And I need to clarify. I
bookmarked it.
Well, that was with a fully strong team, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Oh,
but also,
slander.
I need to clarify. Lakers and LeBron in my heart, but I put money on the Heat because they're the underdog and the payout's much bigger. So that's all. That's the reason.
She's money our degenerate better on the show.
She's all, I will sell you out. I will sell you and your team out.
Listen, and this is why you should vote. I need to pay off these student loans, okay? Let's talk about that later.
I mean, I might give you a little pass there, but don't think that I didn't see that, okay? Because I'm like, I'm going to let you have this right now because you're in.
I was waiting. That was a delayed response.
A fully healthy Heat, it might be a different story.
And,
well, they were healthy in game 1.
Up until the second quarter, and then everybody went down.
Here we
Come
go.
on.
We will get into this.
Yeah, this one's quiet.
We will get into this.
I'm on both sides here.
We will get into this.
Season.
Come on.
We will get into
side,
this.
Karen.
Pick the side with the money.
Kendall, how are you? How was Montana? You had a big old vacation, kind of like spurred us all to kind of like reevaluate and take a break ourselves.
Fuck out of Dodge.
Yeah, you're back. How's it going? How are you holding it down in Utah?
It's going down. My big project is the busy part of it is over. Now it's just the getting the word out part on the voting playbook. But yeah, I went to Jackson Hole and up to Whitefish, Montana, and then down to Ketchum, Sun Valley, Idaho, and then back here to Utah. And it was beautiful, except in Montana, the fires had gotten so bad on the West Coast during that time that the smoke had come in and you couldn't see anything at Glacier National Park, which super bummed me out because I was really, really excited to go there.
Sure.
But we still made the best of it and drove through the park and did what we could. So,
good. Question: how was this bison interaction? Like, did you pee in your pants?
I was so hyped. You have no idea. I was like, all I wanted to see was a fucking moose. That didn't happen. A bear. That didn't happen. Even though apparently the bears were going crazy in all of the parks we went to. And then all we saw was a deer. And I'm like, I could see this on a Tuesday. And then all of a sudden we're leaving Yellowstone and here's these two like bison that are just like
in the middle of the road. Like,
yeah, we're like, I freaked out. I jumped out of the car and all that. Yeah. Don't do that, by the way. Don't jump out of the car.
I saw another video of a bison and people getting out of their...
Unless you're doing a TikTok challenge, you need to stay in the car.
They were far enough away and I wasn't like up in their face, like taking a selfie or anything. But yeah, they're actually very cute, even though they look really stinky and big.
Hey, I owned a pug, remember? Talk about ugly and stinky and cute all in the same time.
That's true. That's true.
I get it. Awesome. Well, I'm glad that we're all back. We're refreshed, reset, rejuvenated. We're ready to roll into season 3. We have a giant October planned. Today's guest is going to talk about her project that she's doing in Wisconsin, in her home state. She's going to talk a little bit about Green Bay Packers because she's a major cheesehead. I think by default, I think if you're born in Wisconsin,
it's in the blood.
They put a cheesehead hat on you. It's like
in the hospital.
Yeah, in the hospital.
You're really,
instead
like
of a
your
beanie.
blood. Your blood is actually just like fondue cheese.
Right. Exactly. They dip you in a fondue pot and with a skewer.
That's how you get baptized in Wisconsin.
In a fondue pot. I believe that is technically the truth. So she'll be on in a little bit. Before we get to our guest, really quick, some house cleaning. Please subscribe to us, as always, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I'm actually leaning towards Spotify. Like, Spotify seems to be, like, giving me life lately. So I would say, like, go listen to us on Spotify. Of course, we're on the Good News Radio app, blah, blah, blahs. Also, we are now the Hoops Talk Pod on Twitter. I finally was able to get that. I said, let's do it.
We're done with stalking.
Yes. We weren't stalking. We weren't hoop stocking.
Hoop stockings.
So yes, we're the Hoops Talk Pod. So please check it out. We're also on Instagram. We're still Hoops Talking there. We're on TikTok, the Hoops Talk Podcast, and of course subscribe to our YouTube so that you can see our lovely faces and our guest lovely faces, and on and on and on. So with that, I think we're ready to bring on our guest, and we will be right back. Hello, welcome, Kristin.
Wow. Happy to be here.
Bray or Brey? I read in your
Brey.
Brey.
It looks like Brey.
Yes.
Yeah. I know. It's a weird, I don't know why. I don't know what happened in Ellis Island where they're like, yeah, this is the way to pronounce, like spell it, but pronounce it like this. But yeah, it's my entire life, you know, like growing up playing basketball, both, like, every time there was an announcer, whether it was my brother or me or even like my dad, I was like, Peter Bray. Like, we'd be like scream from the Bry.
Yes. I made sure to read that and write it down and then absolutely forget it when I said your name right now.
You totally left out the R too.
Yeah. I wonder if someone just did an extra loop before doing the Y in cursive and then you got stuck.
You know what? I'll just cut it out. So
there you go. Well, no, it's so funny. I always joke about that because then everyone spells Kristin. I spell my name with 2 I's instead of like IN instead of EN. So between people spelling my first name wrong all the time and pronouncing it, I was like, this is such a simple white girl name to get wrong all the time.
I get that too. I get Kendall Fryrear, and I'm like, where are you? What? F-R-E-E-R. What?
Just adding another syllable in there.
Right?
Oh, man. I really got to get those names right, though, as a co-host. So work in progress. Season 3, work in progress. Well, again, welcome on the show, on the Hoops Talk. Thank you for joining us. You and I have been connected from a social club in Los Angeles that we were both part of. And, we talked and we just clicked, and I have been following the projects that you've been working on. One of them, so first off, you are the founder and chief content creator for As Goes Washington, So Goes the Nation. So
As Goes Wisconsin.
As Goes Wisconsin. Okay.
And killing it today, Liz.
I know. It says So Goes the Nation, I think, on the website, but I could be wrong. I am wrong. So it's basically what you did was you wanted to film a documentary about Wisconsin voters. So you were in LA, you went back home, you tried to, start filming that, and then COVID happened. So then it became more of this grassroots effort to still make the videos for information for Wisconsians to learn about voting and registration and politics and policies. And this actually is something that you've been doing in a broader level when you had Below the Fold, which was you using your comedy chops and, to break down complex political topics in less than 10 minutes. And you had that YouTube show. So it's all kind of like baked into who you are and what you've done and kind of your journey. So if you would tell us, like, what was it that, you're doing Below the Fold, and then what was that want to go back to Wisconsin, do the documentary, and then how you've now grown As Goes Wisconsin? We'd love to hear that.
Yeah. So I have an acting background. I moved from so I grew up in Madison, Wisconsin, and I grew up acting, and then I had the opportunity to move to LA when I was 16 to be an actress. And so I thought that was going to be, so I have a performing background, and I think like in my bones, I am a ham. So I love attention, and I love to entertain people. And so, but then, acting is hard, especially acting as a teenager. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go to college. And then during my 20s, I worked in tech and I did all these different things. And it was really after, I think like so many people, 2016 and Trump getting elected, that Anne was getting out of San Francisco, that I was like, all right, I don't like sales. I don't like tech. So like, what do I like? And I think I realized that it was a combination of still wanting to perform, but with like another layer of not just perform to perform. And I think I looked at what people were doing, whether it was like with short videos, like Vice and Vox, but then also like obviously with like Trevor Noah and Jon Stewart and The Daily Show, and like really kind of tapping into how comedy can be a conduit to explain things, to get people to take in information that they otherwise wouldn't. And just, in this like overload of like, there's so much news happening, like sometimes like news gets mixed up with like what's actually important for us to know. And so that's kind of where it came from. It was just like combining both the things that I think were missing as far as wanting to provide more information, but doing it in an entertaining way. So that's where Below the Fold came. And I was like, no one's going to hire me to do this because there's like 5 people who do this in the world. So I'm just going to start it myself. And so I was doing that, and I moved to LA thinking I was going to try to maybe sell that show or like pitch this show to people. And then the Wisconsin thing, when I was like, because Wisconsin's, I don't know, like to give it context, so Wisconsin is super weird when it comes to, or unique, I should say, when it comes to elections. So like 3 out of the last 5 presidential elections were decided within a percentage point in Wisconsin. And so it's like presidential elections are always really close here. Our governor races are really close here. But then it's also on top of it being so close in such a 50-50 state, but there's also like a bunch of swing voters and like split ticket voters. So we have Tammy Baldwin's one of our senators who is like a very, very liberal senator. And then we had Scott Walker as our governor, who was kind of like we'll put him as like the pre-Trump Trump. And like, there was like 12% of people in our 2018 election who voted for her and him. And so it's like, there's like, so I was like, this is super interesting. Wisconsin's going to be this like, you know, battleground state. So I'm going to go back and try to like tell these stories of like, who are these people who are split ticket voters? Who are these people who didn't vote last time who are voting this time? But as you said, I got stuck here. So I got stuck in central Wisconsin in March when I came home trying to, like I was going to try to get footage of our primary that was on April 7th and couldn't film anything because everything shut down. And so I had interviewed, I was like, all right, I'll like do it over Zoom and see what we can do. And someone was like, we need to show people how to absentee vote. Because Wisconsin, like a lot of places, there's like these extra measures that are for security, but make it harder to vote. And one of which is you have to take a picture of your ID and upload it to the Wisconsin like voting site. And so for like the average person who's not very tech savvy, you know, people were sending like selfies in instead of like pictures of their IDs. And yeah, and so I made that first video and I like leveraged my mother's inability to deal with tech and put her in it.
Actually saw that. It was like, really
just
funny.
Like, and so like it was so needed. And so like it immediately got shared like thousands, like it got shared like hundreds of times. It got like thousands of views, even though I had no social following under that account yet. And so I realized pretty quickly that I could use what I had been doing with Below the Fold as far as like short, funny content, but like narrow it just to Wisconsin and narrow it, at least for this year, predominantly about voting, but then also still bringing in, making fun of the news, making fun of what's happening, like doing like weekly roundups and playing with longer episodes, doing like, I got super into TikTok, which I never thought, like, it was funny because I feel like we were talking about like, how do I do TikTok? And now it's like one of like the best things I've discovered this year. So yeah, so that's kind of like it in a nutshell. And now I'm moving back. Like I decided through this journey that I am going to move to Milwaukee. I'm still at my parents' house right now, but I'm moving. I signed a lease. I'm moved to Milwaukee next Saturday. Even after the election, trying to figure out like, how do you make a daily show on the state level? Like, how do you continue to kind of, like, how do you reinvent ways that state news can be delivered? Because there's so much national news, but on the state level, especially in like flyover states, you know, there's like the nightly news, there's like local newspapers, but there's not a ton of avenues to get, you know, in the same way that we get our information for national stories. So yeah, so that's the plan post election.
I love that plan. I think that is just like, you know, I'm from California and I left to move to New York and then I came back to California. So you see how I'm like only on the coast. But with that said, I have thought about, you know, my small town. I'm from Watsonville. I'm a very small town. You know, farm workers is the big industry there. And my family still live there. And it's something that I think about, like, you know, I used to hate it when I was a kid. I was like, oh my God, if I spend the first thing I want to do when I get my car is drive out of this town and never come back, you know. But now I look at it, I've fallen back in love with it. And I think about it sometimes like, oh, you know, like I understand now. Do you think that that's something like as you've aged, or is there something that you could say like made you fall back in love with your state and your hometown?
Absolutely. I think since 16, I've lived in LA, Berkeley, San Francisco, New York, LA. So I like only lived in major cities. And that had you asked me in January if I was ever going to live in Wisconsin again, I'd be like, no, like what? And the reason being, like, I kind of just assumed, like, what would I even do there? You know, in the assumption that I had to be in one of these major cities to either pursue comedy or pursue the videos and stuff like that. And like, it was just like a foregone conclusion that this is where I would live. Like, this is where all my friends live in these cities. And I think it'll be interesting, you know, a couple of years from now, how many people had a similar experience with COVID of like this realization of not like being like, oh, maybe these cities aren't as like much as they're like cracked up to be. Yeah. And I think it's been a combination of like coming back. And I think the first thing that became immediately apparent was how much more helpful people were here. Of just like, and it's, you know, there's like a joke about being Wisconsin nice, but it's like every call I would be on trying to like getting As Goes Wisconsin started, as I was like, all right, I'm going to try to turn this into something. I'm trying to fundraise and like whatever. Every call ended with like 3 more introductions to another person that I had to talk to. And so it's like how quickly I was able to navigate I don't like this word, but like the players in Wisconsin of like who could help and who could like introduce me to another person and blah, blah, blah. And like, because it's just smaller. It's like, well, it's one because people are helpful, but it's also smaller. So it's easier to navigate. So it's like, that was the first thing, especially after living in these cities where like, you know, like everyone's hyper ambitious. Everyone's got like 3 different things that they're doing, whether it's like, you know, they got their startup in San Francisco or they got their script or whatever they're pushing in LA and New York. And like, it's like, you're constantly surrounded by incredibly like ambitious, competitive, talented people who are very absorbed with what they're doing. And I think it becomes a lot harder to like find people who are genuinely trying to help you. So that was the first thing. And then I think it was also just realizing how much work there is to do here, and feeling like the actual impact of the stuff that I'm making and being like clued in with the people who are already trying to do work here, because like Wisconsin historically has always been a pretty progressive place. And it's up until like the last 10 years, again, going back to Scott Walker, that like things are starting to fall apart a little bit as far as I feel like every couple of months there's some like headline or like we've fallen in the rankings for XYZ against other states and stuff like that. So I feel like it's also been the realization of like the actual impact of the stuff that I'm making being larger than just trying to be like another person in LA who's got like another show that like, right, I don't know, kind of just like blends in. And so yeah, so I'd say that, and it's just been nice. Yeah. It's just been nice to like, it's funny because I would say a lot of my friends have given me the feedback that the stuff that I'm making now versus the below the fold stuff, they're like, you look like you're having more fun and you just are like being 100% yourself. And so I think there is something that like, you can take the girl out of Wisconsin, but like, you can't take a Wisconsin out of the girl. And like, I think that's like showing up pretty hard.
Can you confirm to us, because we were talking before you came on, that when you're born, you're baptized in cheese fondue in Wisconsin?
Oh yeah.
Is that correct?
Know. I thought that was a secret. I didn't know
okay.
That,
I just want to
that we were. It's usually something we keep, you know, because people are so judgmental, you know, right. They don't get it.
Right. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's either that or Miller beer. It's,
yeah. You know, okay. Oh God. What about a cheddar beer fondue? Oh, I love it.
There you go.
I love it. You guys are the best.
That's my
I love it. Right. No, I love that because, you know, it makes a difference when you can feel more authentic when you're making your work, because you're not second guessing. I would assume when you're talking on like below the fold, it was you had to be more broad in the discussions that you're having, and that now you can really dial into the things that are true to you and true to the people around you, which makes the difference also. So that's a good learning, I think, for a lot of people that are trying to figure out what it is they want to do, and if they're creative, and if they have this, you know, want to make something. You don't always have to do huge. You can maybe start back. So you had like this huge scope, and then you dialed it more concentrated, and it's proving to be working for you. Has there been in this, as you're talking to the Wisconsin voters and constituents, has there been anything surprising where you've just like your mind's been blown? You're like, oh my God, this is a huge misinformation, or this is some myth, or anything like that you have found that you've used either your platform to change, or we're like blown away?
I mean, I think where do I want to go with this? I think the first thing that pops in my head that's happening in Wisconsin right now that just feels like, what? Is that our state legislature, so our like state assembly and state senators, despite a economic and health crisis, have not met in 160 days.
Wow. What?
Like they're just not working. And like, it's funny because
nice.
it's such a, like, there's Twitter, and like, I'm like now like very big in like Wisconsin Twitter, which is like its own little thing, but you forget that like everyone who's having this conversation on Twitter, like that's like such a small fraction, just like it is in the world, but like realizing, and I was like, I don't know how much that is like actually resonates with the average person here of like, these people are just not working. And despite, we're spiking right now. Like in the last 7 days, we've had 17,000 cases of COVID. And yet the only thing that the Wisconsin legislature or the GOP is doing is trying to sue the governor for having made a mask mandate.
Wow.
And
wow.
So it's things like that where it's like, that I feel like this gets posted all the time on like Instagram, but it's like, if you're not outraged, you're not paying attention.
Right.
And I think that's it. Like, I think there's a lot of people who just aren't paying attention, and they, or they just listen to their news that that's where they get their information from, and they're preconceived. Because there are those, like, I was talking to a guy recently who's like, my dad's going to vote for Trump. And I'm like, and I asked him, and I was like, this is not against your dad. This is just because you've said this to me, like, but like after the debate on Tuesday, I was like, so you think your dad will still vote for him after this? He goes, yeah, like his 401k is good, and like that's what he's living off of, and like that's what he cares about. And so it's like, I think that's really the thing of like where we are both in this state, but I think even as a country, of like just what seems so obvious, and like obviously like this is wrong. Like party aside, like they're not doing their job.
Yeah.
And yet people are like, yeah, I'm going to vote for them. Like, that's what still is mind-boggling to me. I think because I'm attempting to try to be more nonpartisan, because this is a super partisan state, and in general, I try to approach it so that I'm not just preaching to the choir.
Right.
And so I am consistently trying to find people who are more conservative that I can talk to, because I still don't understand, and I'm trying to understand. But I have to think it's kind of because like people are just living their lives, and they're not like living on the internet all the time like I am, or I think a lot of us are.
Right. Yeah. Wow, that's so interesting.
I mean, to me, it seems like it's very much, one side is very much about what's going to happen to me. And the other side is worried about what's going to happen to others, not so much about themselves. Because if you look at it, I mean, anytime a Trump voter does switch something, it's because something happened personally to them. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm going to switch sides because that personally happened to me. Now I'm against it. Whereas the other side is very much like, well, I don't want that to happen to anybody, so I'm gonna look out for everybody just in case it happens in the future to anybody. It's just like a lack of empathy. It seems to me. I don't know.
Yeah. No.
I'm just fed up with everything right now.
I know. I think I saw a tweet this morning that was like, the tax story was Monday.
Yeah.
Literally.
Like, it's been a week.
Same week.
Yeah.
It's been years.
Like the biggest story of the year, and then the debate happened, and then Trump got COVID. It's like, what is life right now?
Been a year.
Of this like vortex of news that we're living in. And like, for people who actually do the news, like, how are you still holding on? Like, people who actually have to go like wake up every day and report and like update. It's like, someone like they all need a vacation.
They've got to be so exhausted.
Seriously,
Seriously, November 4th or whenever the final vote comes in, it's all
January
gonna be
2021.
the scrubs of CNN and MSNBC up on screen.
Just like a total blackout
2024.
for a week where we just like let everyone just take a break.
They're gonna have one of those in memoriams for
It's
like all the fact
cartoon
checkers,
reruns.
you know, and like just names of the fact checkers, and you know, Daniel Dale and Jim Acosta, Caitlin Collins, all those poor, you know, White House journalists. Yeah, no, it's been like it's October 3rd today.
Much.
So we were saying that, you know, we're 1 month from the election, and if I don't know. All I know is we got to stay the course. Just stay the course.
Stay the course.
And that's why we wanted to have you on, because I know, you know, your registration and you have Wisconsin has some deadlines, right? That they met them? Are they, what are some like dates that maybe we can share here?
So the last day to register online is October 14th. Okay. But we have a day of registration. So if you don't register, so the day on, you can go register in person November 3rd. Okay. So, which is good. But yeah, so if you want to do it online, it's October 14th. I'm going to get this wrong, and I don't want to. So I'm going to look up the last day to get your absentee ballot. But we have in-person early voting starts October 20th. And so that's, and then the last day to, let's see, get your absentee, more information, deadlines. Here we go. October 14th is the deadline to register by mail and online. October 30th, you can still register in your municipal clerk's office. And October 29th is the last day you can get your absentee ballot. But honestly, get your absentee ballot now. Like if you're going to vote absentee, and then once you get it, you don't have to mail it back in. You can either drop it back off at your municipal clerk's office, or there's different cities are setting up drop boxes. Or you can vote early. So it'll be really interesting to think how many people end up actually voting in person on November 3rd. Because I think already, like, the numbers of how many people have already voted is, like, insane compared to where we usually are at this point in the election.
Yeah. I'm getting a little anxious that us in California haven't gotten our mail-in ballots yet.
I know, I haven't either.
I'm like...
I just got an email that said it's been put in the mail.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, good.
I thought I got that email last week.
I just got it like 2 days ago, but I also just switched mine because I'm in Utah, so I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah. I gotta make sure I get that shit. I was like, I will drive back to California and pick it up if I have to.
It's true.
I'm not gonna be preaching to everybody to vote, and then I don't go out and vote myself.
That's the thing I'm kind of excited about, to see like potential like record numbers of people voting.
Yeah.
You know, like I think, you know, considering how few people voted in 2016, and I think there's projections that this could be the highest turnout ever, like of all time. Which could be really cool, because like I feel like one of the things that people who are more like experts in this is that like voting is a habit. So it's like once you start voting, it becomes like, like this is just something you do. Versus people who never build that habit are like, they just don't. It's just like a habit. It's like this. I don't know. It's a habit. And so I think it'll be interesting to see if this is an uptick as far as that maintains, even for like, even if Trump loses, if there's like that momentum can stay, because like Gen Z is fired up. And so I think it'll be interesting to see if they stay fired up.
TikTok, baby.
Oh, I know.
TikTok.
They're disrupting the whole thing.
It's wild. Like
they
are. And there's a bunch of like baby Trumpers too that are like, I see a bunch of conservative, like they're just like way more politically engaged.
Yeah.
And I guess it's just like they've grown up. I mean, I think like they've grown up with so much information at their fingertips. That I think it makes like it kind of makes sense, but they're way more active than we were. I think are we all millennials?
I'm Gen X.
Liz, like,
are you?
I'm all, you're welcome for the internet.
She's a boomer.
You're welcome for the internet.
I'm not a boomer. I'm a Gen Xer, and we're like,
okay, Gen Xer.
Yeah, okay, Gen Xer. We're a silent giant. Okay, guys, whatever. If you're gonna enjoy the Craft remake, you can thank us for the original. Okay. All your remakes were our originals. I'm just saying. So yes. Well, before I let you go, I have a couple more questions for you. One is, now that everything that's happening with the president has COVID, the Red Rose Garden massacre, all of these like timelines, the fact that a lot no wearing masks, the GOP, RBG, like all this stuff. Do you have are those concerns in Wisconsin? Like, are you going to tailor videos around that? Are you going to be able to leverage that? Or are you going to stick more to like, hey, you know what? That's a sideshow, and we really want to be considered like still on point with the registration. Where do you feel you're going to be going with your topics?
Well, so this is most of the stuff from now until November 3rd is going to be voting stuff. I'm actually really excited about this. And also, side note, one of these died, so I'm trying to charge it. So if this one dies, give me a second and I'll plug this one back in. And so one thing that we're doing this week, I got someone reached out to me, and she's like she got like her PhD in like education gamification stuff. So she's created a virtual scavenger hunt where like in an app, so you can do all these like get out the vote like activities. And so I'm gonna make a bunch of videos of me doing those to try to promote the scavenger hunt. So it's like a lot of things like that, mostly just because like anything that's more nuanced, I feel like is just going to get lost because there's so many political ads. There's so much content out there that's just like vote, 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 vote. And so for the next month, it's going to be predominantly that. I do reaction videos, but in general, I try to stay away from national politics because again, I feel like there's enough people talking about it that like I want to differentiate myself as someone who's like specifically talking about Wisconsin stuff. And there's a lot to still talk about. And so I think like post-election, we're one of the most gerrymandered states in the country. And with the census, this being a census year, and they're going to redraw maps next year. So like almost as soon as the election's done, there becomes like a campaign to continue to educate people on like what we can do to try to not be as gerrymandered next time around. So I'll probably switch to that. And then I can think like a lot of the stuff next year will continue. And it's like, how do we play with stuff that's happening in Wisconsin, but like also how that ties into like a national conversation. So I think that is the balance of like gerrymandering is happening here, but it's also other places. So how do we like balance something that is specific to here, but also if someone else were to watch it somewhere, like it also applies other places. And so, but like just responding to national news only through the lens, I feel like, of how that specifically affects Wisconsin.
Got it.
If that makes sense.
No, that makes total sense. And that sticks.
I mean, personally, for my personal accounts, I absolutely will comment. But from the ASGO's accounts, this is what I'm trying to figure out. It's like, all right, what is ASGO's Wisconsin and what is Kristin? Like, where do we draw the line? Because right now it's kind of one thing. But hopefully ASGO's Wisconsin becomes its actual own like media company. It is a separate voice than like me. That's the goal at least.
I love it. That makes sense. So before we let you go, okay, your Green Bay Packers, what's happening? NFL. I mean, as long as they, are not testing positive for COVID right now, I think is a win in the NFL. But other than that, we got to ask you because as a cheesehead, I mean, are you excited?
Cheesehead, I mean, they're on Monday Night Football this week, but I mean, there's 3-0. Rodgers is looking as good as he's ever looked. I think everyone was like, had all this speculation after we drafted a quarterback. But I think he's still showing that he's the best. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like every season is like, oh, this is our season. And since 2011, that's never panned out. But I am pumped because again, like I've spent my entire adult life living in not Wisconsin. So I've always had to like go find the Packer bar or go find other Packer fans. And I'm realizing like, oh, now like every bar is a Packer bar. Like this is going to be awesome. Like I was in Milwaukee the other weekend, last Sunday, and like just walking around, like everyone's got their Packer gear on, like at brunch. And I was like, yes. Like, all right,
I'm not going to have to fight anyone today.
Yeah. Like living in San Francisco when the 49ers just kept beating us every time, and all my friends are Niner fans. I hate all of you.
Oh God. Yeah, that does feel good. I understand. I don't follow football, but I'm a Laker fan. So, you know, haters.
So you're excited.
Oh, I'm super excited. Are you kidding me?
You're
I'm
pumped
like,
right now.
I'm like, okay, I need gloves, a mask, a space helmet, a hazmat suit. I got to go to this parade, you know, when they come bring the trophy.
That's what I was just going to ask. I was like, how are they going to do a parade? Yeah, like that's going to be such a bummer.
It is a bummer.
But yeah, like, LeBron, I mean, I feel like LeBron deserves it. I feel like LeBron is like kind of how like Aaron Rodgers is. It's like, oh, you're the best, but you only have, how many rings does LeBron have? 2?
He has like 3, I think.
3.
2 with Miami.
Yeah. So it's like, you'd think he'd have more, but like you'd think Aaron Rodgers would have more Super Bowls than he does. And so I feel like it is what it is. But I'm excited. I mean, I'm hoping that we get a good point guard so that now it can go to Bucks games and Giannis can watch the MVP.
Yeah.
If he stays.
LeBron was not happy about that. I was surprised he was so vocal about how pissed off he was.
Okay.
It was like, really?
He got one vote. The man got one vote. I would be pissed. I mean, I'd be a little miffed too if I'm like, hi, have you not seen what I've been doing? Hey, now he knows how I felt with all those promotions that went to people that should have got it when I was the one in the hustle the whole time. So all I'm saying is, now you know, King. Now you know. But yes, I'm very excited for my Lakers. So we'll see what happens with that.
See what happens.
Please, Kristin, tell our audience where they can find you, what all your handles, all your URLs, your links, give all the information.
So all the information. So pretty simple, asgoeswisconsin.com, and then at asgoeswisconsin on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. If you want to follow my personal accounts, I'm just at Kristin Brey, KristinBrey. And we put out content almost every day, between infographics or videos and or just me tweeting drunkenly. But yeah, and so check us out. I mean, like I said, like it is Wisconsin specific, but trying to also incorporate things, national trends and talking points. But it's really funny. Like the point is to both make you laugh and teach you something. And so if you're into stuff like that, definitely check us out.
Yeah. I mean, we all need a good laugh. We need good information.
Yeah. These days,
so
for sure.
These days. I mean, I'm kind of been laughing for a few days now, but still.
We're living inside of it.
Laugh so you don't cry, man.
Yeah, laugh so we don't cry.
Exactly.
It's been a complete and utter joy to have you on our show, to talk about your project, to tell us what's happening. And, voting has been a major part of what we've been doing with the podcast. Kendall has done a voting playbook. So, this is something that's
love that. Send it to me.
Close. Yeah, we'll definitely send that to you. We'll put all the links in the bios to your stuff as well. And yeah, I mean, we will be watching Wisconsin. We will be, watching you in Wisconsin. See, we're going to be like, hey, Kristin did that. If it's something good, of course.
Good.
So, thank you so much. And, you're always welcome to the show. And I'm sure, we'll see you in Wisconsin.
We'll see you around. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Of course. Bye. And we are back. Wow.
Stand back and stand by.
Stand by, because season
3, proud girl.
Hi, everyone. This is the
We're
Hoops
off the
Talk. No,
be clear.
Look, we had a great conversation with Kristin. I'm so excited for what she is doing. As Goes Wisconsin. We'll put all of the links in the bio. But hey, you know, that goes to show you that wherever you go, you can always go back home and make a difference. So I think that's really important for everybody to get. You know, it's like one thing that struck me